Martin Popoff here, back for another episode of Contrarians Feedback, where we used to do this, quite a bit in the past, where we would give feedback on episodes, read your feedback, and agree or disagree with what's going on. So we thought we'd revive that concept, doing these basically solo shows using Zoom. So yeah, I wanted to take a look at the Queen episode we did, where I picked Jazz as my favorite Queen album. I thought, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty contrarian choice, I imagine. So yeah, let's look at a few of these comments. William May said Sheer Heart Attack will always be a favorite of theirs. A lot of people will pick that. I would rank Jazz above Night at the Opera as well. That's pretty cool. I'm getting an agreement there from B. Rogers. Also love A Night at the Opera. Would rank, hang on. Night at the Opera, I would rank it near the bottom. Although I love A Night at the Opera, I would rank it near the bottom of their 70s albums. Interesting. Pick a Queen album, any Queen album. Yes, even Hot Space, and I will completely understand why you think it's their best. That's from Jukebox Cowboy. And let's see, Jim G says, strong effort, Martin, but I can't go against the album Night at the Opera that has 4 of my top 6 Queen songs. Prophet Song, amazing song. Man, I love Prophet Song. 39, I'm in love with my car. Not a big fan of that one. Death on Two Legs, again, one of my favorite top Queen songs. Best Sour Grape song since Positively 4th Street. I thought that was pretty funny. Tim's Vinyl Confession says, great episode, guys. Was waiting for a Queen one. Love Jazz. It's so quirky, and I think that's why I like it a lot too. Quirky and the short songs. Although I recognize that A Night at the Opera is a masterpiece, it's also a matter of not hearing songs from it all the time, with the possible exception of Fat Bottom Girls, which is a great, good stadium rock and heavy Queen song. But any casual Queen fan who has a couple of hits compilations, I highly recommend giving it a try. Let's see. Corn Chips Novemberland says, totally agree with Martin here. Jazz is my favorite Queen album as well. Sheer Heart Attack is a close second for me. Every tune is quite good, and like all of the 70s records, it is brimming with eclectic and fresh sounds. Yeah, I mean, that was one thing I made the point in the episode. I loved all the weird little sound effects and the short songs and the bells and all sorts of interesting, little directions tried all over the thing. I also agree that the first 7 Queen albums are perhaps the finest run in rock and roll history. I think that's what I said in there. Although I feel that the first 6 Aerosmith albums, so he goes on, I always say it's only Queen and Priest that can be called geniuses objectively. With all this, the rest of it is just opinion. I mean, Aerosmith, yeah, great albums, I love them and stuff, but it's not the same kind of genius, I think, that Queen and Priest did. Brian Dunlap says Night at the Opera, Jazz, and Innuendo are my top 3 Queen albums. A lot of people like Innuendo. I think it's pretty overrated. I always thought of Jazz as a short, this is Luka Perovich. I always thought of Jazz as a sort of Sheer Heart Attack light, each with 13 relatively short songs. Yeah, interesting point. I've never compared the two. That's really cool. Like that comment, jumping from one style to another. I prefer Sheer Heart Attack, though. Jazz gets a bit inconsistent towards the end for me. It also feels like the heavier songs on Sheer Heart Attack pack a bit more punch. Yeah, the production's a little heavier and fuller on Sheer Heart Attack, 1974, right? Looks like y'all need to do an episode on the greatest run of killer albums. Queen are up there, no doubt. I'd take the first album up too, including Jazz as their run. So this is the thing I was saying before. He brings up Aerosmith as well, Blue Oyster Cult, and Stones. And again, I feel like there are bands with albums that I even love more than whatever, all the Queen albums or whatever in a row. But, well, maybe not, Queen's not a good example, but Queen and Priest are just like an ungodly level of genius. The other ones are just, great albums that you love by bands, but they're operating in a mortal realm, whereas Queen and Priest really weren't. You guys need to ditch the background music. I think we did that. It's more of a distraction than anything because it's a low rumbling of noise. I think we made that change. Great video. Jazz is definitely an underrated gem. However, I think Queen 2 takes the prize in the bells and whistles category. Definitely a lot of bells or whistles on that one. Let's see, also says, Jazz is also my favorite Queen album, so I'm getting agreement there. I love when a work can use a mix of different styles and sounds to create a really diverse and interesting soundscape. And Jazz is the album I see as perfectly balanced mix of rock and pop, where it doesn't sit too heavily on either end of the spectrum. Pretty interesting. Damien Karras says, quite honestly, the first 7 Queen albums are all so strong that you can make an argument for any one of them. I totally agree. if you remove the song Bohemian Rhapsody from Night at the Opera, there isn't much that separates those 7 Queen albums. Yeah, very cool. Let's see. Ognian Danilov says, why are these names always so hard to pronounce, right? For me, jazz is for sure the Queen album that I've listened to the most. However, I would argue that the best albums are actually Queen 2, Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. Good point. I mean, that first run is pretty amazing. After that, on 4th place, I would put jazz. Their first 3 albums are the least commercial by the most creative, but the most creative in my opinion. I know, I totally agree. Amazing, amazing records. Let's see what else we got. Danny Joe Brown. Well, I do really like jazz. I always found Night at the Opera to be the masterpiece. This tour, November 78, was my first real concert. I got this album in double live gonzo for Christmas that year. It was pretty much all over for me after that. Awesome. Slick intro, very cool. You can't go wrong with B. Rogers. You can't go wrong with 70s Queen. I don't care what album you pick. Jazz is absolutely dazzling, so I have no problem with Martin's assessment. Davey Cretan, gentlemen, aren't you social distancing in Canada? Well, as we said, explained, I think we got answers here. We filmed this way before the virus came in. I'm surprised you're standing so close to one another, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. So there's some really cool feedback and comments. We have such smart viewers. Everybody, is very perceptive on these records. So it's always gratifying to read these comments. So please keep commenting as much as you can. I learn a lot from reading them as well. We learn how contrarian our choice is, but we just learn a lot of really cool perceptive things from reading stuff from our smart viewers. So thanks again. Really appreciate it. Talk to you later.